You're watching Capital City Sunday.
Joining me is Ben Wikler, the chair of the Wisconsin Democratic Party. Ben, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Caroline.
So this year, Democrat Peter Barca is challenging Republican Representative Brian Steil to represent Wisconsin's 1st congressional district. Steil has been elected to Congress 3 times now, but his margins of victory have been shrinking. Now, despite that, the Cook Political Report lists this seat as a likely Republican victory. Why do you think that is, and why are you confident in Barca?
Well, Brian Steil has been governing as though he represents a deep red district. He has an extreme voting record. He has supported so-called heartbeat bills that would create a national abortion ban. He celebrated the overturning of Roe versus Wade as a great victory. He voted against the Inflation Reduction Act, which means he voted against bringing down the cost of prescription drugs. And he's been a huge advocate of repealing the Affordable Care Act, attacking Social Security and Medicare, and pushing for tax cuts for the ultra wealthy. All those are the kinds of things that you see from Republicans who represent very right-wing districts. But the 1st congressional district is not a far-right district. This is a purple district, and you can see in Peter Barca a candidate who can win there. I think with national Republicans not really realizing that voters want change.
When it comes to which party controls the U.S. House, a few close races could play a big role. The 1st congressional, like you just mentioned, also Wisconsin's 3rd congressional district. In 2022, that seat was decided by less than 12,000 votes. The Democrat Brad Pfaff lost to Derek Van Orden, and Pfaff blamed that partly on national Democrats not spending enough money in the race. Do you think it'll be a different story this year as Rebecca Cook looks to unseat Van Orden?
National Democrats are keenly aware that the 3rd congressional district is a huge pickup opportunity for Democrats. And you can see both in the 1st and the 3rd congressional district, it's on the DCCC's red to blue list, their handpicked list of the biggest opportunities to defeat Republican incumbents. And you can see it in their TV reservations. They're running ads in that district. That's the air cover that we didn't have in 2022. Meanwhile, Rebecca Cook is on offense. She's a moderate Democrat running in a purple district against an extremist who has supported national abortion bans and who was on Capitol grounds on January 6th after the 2020 elections, after he lost his 1st congressional race. That race is a true toss-up in this moment. And both in the 1st and the 3rd congressional district, Democrats are on offense and Republicans don't really have an answer for their extreme voting records. So there's a huge opportunity there. And I think that is a very clear thing for national Democrats as well.
So we've talked about congressional races. Let's look at the U.S. Senate race right now. This week, Cook Political moved it from lean Democrat to toss-up, and Eric Hovde's campaign is signaling they believe he has more momentum than Senator Tammy Baldwin. Is this setting off alarm bells among Wisconsin Democrats?
The alarm bells have been rung. This is a toss-up race. And it's a toss-up race not because Eric Hovde has gotten less extreme, not because Eric Hovde has become less repellent to voters who find out about how he's been demeaning and shaming them, saying seniors don't have the mental capacity to vote and that women are paying too much attention to Hollywood and so forth. It's a toss-up race because dark money groups have flooded our state with ads, $17 million in vicious super PAC attack ads, pushing lies and attacking Senator Baldwin. Now, Senator Baldwin has a deep reservoir of trust across our state. She's campaigning crisscrossing rural areas and cities and suburbs alike. She's buoyed by our extraordinary array of state legislative candidates, congressional races. I should also mention Kristen Lyerly in the 8th congressional district, running a powerhouse campaign in a tough district. All over the state, we are organizing and fighting, and Senator Baldwin is communicating her values to stick up for people whether or not they vote for her, to bring down costs, stand up to special interests, and to support national protections like Roe versus Wade to ensure that the government can't tell you what you can do with your own body. That message can win, but we cannot be drowned out in that race. And we have to make sure that we are communicating everywhere, every second of the day, all the way through Election Day. We don't want 2016 to repeat itself. This year, we have to beat Trump and beat the Republican candidate for Senate. And we have a chance to elect Kamala Harris and re-elect Tammy Baldwin.
You mentioned those state-level races. Democrats are running in 97 of the 99 assembly districts in Wisconsin, all 16 state Senate districts. This, of course, is the first election cycle with those new legislative maps after redistricting. Is there more Democratic momentum this year, and what does that mean for those congressional races and other statewide races?
Part of what's so exciting about having fair maps and voters knowing that they can actually control their state's destiny by casting ballots down ballot as well as up ballot, it means that we have candidates who are knocking on doors asking voters for their support one-to-one. And there's nothing like hearing from a candidate when you're a voter. There's nothing like hearing directly from someone, I want your vote. What issues matter to you? Here's what I'll do if I'm elected. That gives us a kind of edge that might not show up in polls going into the election, but I think can provide that critical margin. Control of state legislative chambers often comes down to a few dozen votes, and everything that happens down ballot can matter. And at the same time, it can encourage people who care about public education funding, who are furious about the total shutdown of abortion care in Wisconsin after Roe versus Wade, and how Republicans did nothing to try to bring back freedom for people to access the healthcare that they needed. It gives those voters a reason to cast a ballot, even if their eyes are glazing over when they see all these ads in federal races. It's not a huge effect, but this is a state where the statewide margins can come down to 2 or 3 votes per precinct across the state. And having triple the number of competitive state legislative districts this cycle compared to previous ones, having dynamite Democratic candidates on the ballot who are communicating intensively and organizing their hearts out, it's going to help Democrats up ballot as well. So this is a surround sound year. Our strategy is everything, everywhere, all at once. And the fact that we have great candidates at every level of the ballot who are on offense, it gives us a chance to pull out a win, even when the polls are looking, hold your breath tight.
All right. Chair of the Wisconsin Democratic Party, Ben Wikler. Ben, thank you for taking the time.
Thanks so much for having me.